subdivision. Basically, that side is, I call little, quite a bit of eight. Children. Divided. Looking at three. Two on the lake, and across Tamarack, the big one. To the south? To the west. West.
No, they just can't hear. They're in the chat room saying they can't hear. Of course, you guys aren't talking either.
That's better. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Steve Stopko, Mech Engineering.
Okay, we're on a different case right now, Steve, but I'm glad to know you guys can hear now.
So, this point where motion since it meets requirements of Second. In a second, if I had any stipulation, now would be time to say for the discussion. Second. So, favor?
Aye.
Pearson's aye. Any opposed? Unanimous? Approved.
I will get the owner's signatures on the large plat, bring it to the president and secretary to be signed.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Jim.
You bet.
And you will bring a copy as well, right?
Yes.
All right. On this public hearing for 2022-002P, I know it's set up as a public hearing due to some of the homeowners, I guess, properties adjacent. So it's haven't been done, so we are going to have a review hearing, which would be proper protocol. We haven't had it.
We're going to have a presentation of the,
Right, presentation of PUD for
yes.
And they are online. You've got someone from Mecca Engineering as well as from Marar to discuss this one. And I will bring up their files.
They're on ours now, so
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't control that. So Dean and Steve, I have your site plan up on the screen showing the elevations, the floor plan. I'm just scrolling through it to show everyone, give them a general idea.
Jenny,
Yes, go ahead.
this is Dean. How are you?
Good.
Good. Did you start with the site plan? I can't, there's a glare, so I
Yeah.
can't have up on the
I've
screen.
got your construction site plan showing the entire lot
Okay,
up on the screen at the moment, or page 2 of the PDF that's called lofts.
okay. And Steve's with us, so I'll let him give you a quick overview and then we can go on with any questions.
Hello, Steve Stopko with Mecca Engineering. What you have before you are
Don.
proposed planned unit development. Sorry.
Hold on, Steve. Our secretary wants to get the spelling for your name. It's Steve Stevko.
STO, F as in Frank, KO.
Mecca Engineering. And then you have Dean Jones of Marar Construction.
Okay.
And Sarah Jones of Marar as well is on. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
The proposed development is on the corner of Lakeview Street, Lakeshore Drive, and Coolidge Street. Consists of 2 buildings. Building A, which is facing Lakeview Street, consists of 3 townhomes. Building B, facing Lakeshore Drive, consists of 4 townhome units. The parking is in the rear with access directly to Coolidge Street, with a series of cart storage for golf cart access at the south end of the lot. Utilities are storm sewers coming off of Coolidge, sanitary is coming off Coolidge, and basically that is it.
It's come before that usually twice prior. I've always anything looked at as far as sewers connections? As did all those things actually working with the finals as far as going over like that. I didn't see anything in that before. I know we talked about the parking.
How are they gonna, so they're gonna have to come up with Coolidge to go into park? Basically, that's the only way in?
It's the way
Correct.
in, village and out on Lakeview.
No, out on Coolidge as well.
They're gonna have to go out.
Yeah.
So the other accesses to the parking are for golf carts or what?
Yeah, to the south there, you see the dark area, yes. That's a covered canopy.
Okay, that's it, that right there, that's the
That-
covered
that's-
can.
Yes,
And that's the access to like would be for golf carts.
yes.
Accessible, okay.
Those storage buildings for the golf carts will be enclosed.
Okay.
So they come in off of Coolidge here and they go out here and they have to go right because that Coolidge is a one-way street. And as you guys know, we made Washington down here. If you could picture Washington is also one way.
One way now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they can come back up Lakeview off of Washington,
Okay.
or they can go straight into town.
How many on-site parking spaces do you have?
7 spaces on site directly at the rear of the building. And then there's another approximately 7 spaces along Lakeshore Drive and surrounding the area.
So you're asking those to be included in your 2 parking spaces per unit, correct?
Correct.
How are those going to look off of Lakeshore Drive? Are they going to be perpendicular or parallel or?
There,
It's the existing parking that is there. They're
It's how it
parallel
is
parking.
today. they can't change that. That's our,
That's what I thought, but I would have thought they'd have it hashed out.
Is there any way possible, I mean, I don't know what green space is, because I know in the PUD we can't, we have to require a minimum of
10%.
green space. And I know we have some already, but not much. I'm wondering if there's any way to be added if we don't have that. Or
Sure, like the parking. Parking.
So
That would
what
be-
you're asking from Steve is, where is our 10%
where's our 10% green space?
green space?
We do have green space at the front and sides of all buildings, between the sidewalks, the buildings, and surrounding the, to the west there in the dumpster enclosure in that area.
Can you verify that that's 10%, Steve?
Let me, should be in the plan. I can get you a verification for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we would like that for sure.
Okay. I'll get you the square footage breakdown.
Wayne, do you have a question?
That's it, all on-site parking except parking.
I don't have the CAD file in front of me, but I will get that to you tomorrow morning if that's all right.
Agree.
That'll be fine. We can make that as a stipulation if that's what, if the board chooses to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, fire, so. know you're in the committee, this is concerned out in Chester. We had asked about frontage on Lakeshore or South Coast. And they did come back it up some off the street, so a little bit more setback than what it was originally, so they did come comply with some of that. Key members, they're new, I mean, I want to just say this PUD, it's a little more complicated than other things, so there's a lot more to it. And in your books, you'll find from page, what is it, from 66 to
Yeah.
75.
Also with the PUD, you go through when you do the public hearing on March 8th, you're doing a primary review and a secondary review. The secondary review is just where they tell you how these buildings are going to be used. And they also have to provide assurances they're going to make this improvement to the property, because obviously the property has nothing on it right now. So you can require a performance bond. And I talked to Marar about that earlier this morning with Mike Stallings. So we'd like to have both reviews done. Sometimes there's a second review done much later if you've got like a mixed use PUD where you're going to have a bunch of commercial and residential, et cetera. But obviously this is all one usage. And then the council has to respond to your recommendation within 30 days. They have a meeting right after you. So we're planning on publishing both public hearings that same date. Because we originally wanted to have this one tonight, but we have to notify the surrounding neighbors as well, so. And I'll keep this site plan at town hall if anyone wants to come in and give written comments or input from the public. Once that notice is published, they can come in and look at it.
Jenny, this is
Yeah.
Dean. We did have a conversation with our insurance carrier today. They're working on the specifics for the performance bond, so probably over the next few days, I'll get you that information. We get that started and taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's really the only big thing about that second review is to talk about the usage of the buildings, and then also, or if something changed between now and say 18 months from now, when the PUD expires, they can come back for another review and get your permission to make that change.
Yeah, Steve and Dean, it looks like we have about 13,736 square feet there property. So that means you're going to have almost 1,400 square feet of green space.
Yes.
Okay. Just so that you're aware of it. I know we talked about it there on Lakeshore. That does help what you're doing there, and also on Lake Street. So I think that's going to help, but we just really need to have that confirmed for us.
Absolutely.
What's that?
On the east side, it's north of the entrance. There's green space there?
Yeah, there's green space there on the outside of the sidewalk. We're going to have green space out here, down here.
The environmental
That's
remediation.
that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
The environmental remediation is finished.
Yes, the remediation's been done. The tanks have been removed, the soil cleaned, everything's taken care of there.
So, states. good, yeah.
They're happy.
IDEM's happy.
They're happy. We're ready to go.
Okay.
That would-
Yeah.
Things on it.
Right.
Yes, sir. Concerns, questions?
I had a couple questions. One,
State your name.
Kevin Berger. I own the property across the street. I know the streetlights were somewhat of an issue for my tenants, when the city tavern was there. I'm curious what's being done. Are we keeping those same streetlights across there, or are we doing something different on there?
Steve can probably answer that, but that was brought up at the tech committee as well. And they were gonna make sure that that illumination was less than what it was there, so.
So it's going to be downlight as opposed to.
Yeah, I think that's what you're supposed to do.
So we just had to.
Right, go ahead.
My second question was, are you requiring any detention on this property, and where is that?
As far as detention, I think. Water, I think that's.
Yes,
That's, we're just releasing it into the storm.
correct. We did discuss that. There's a 20-inch storm line that comes, yeah, beside Coolidge there that Bob felt was adequate to handle everything that's going to come from there.
If you're just joining the call as part of the Hawk Lake replat, that one's already been approved. So I just wanted to let you know in case you're wondering, and I've muted you because we're getting all kinds of feedback, so sorry about that.
So we don't really have to have much more discussion because we're accepting what they're giving us.
Right.
And then we'll have our public hearing on the 8th.
So I just make sure that nobody online has anything as well, part of opportunity.
So this is Jeff Mansfield. I was told that this was not a public hearing, and I'm concerned that there are members of the public asking questions, and there are a lot of us that want to ask questions. So I'm a little confused right now. Is this a public hearing or is this not a public hearing?
It's not a public hearing, and the public hearing will be on
March 8th.
March 8th.
March 8th, and it will be a public hearing at that time. Due to notification, we couldn't actually have a public hearing tonight as it was.
I'm well aware of the situation. Thank you. And that's why I'm asking the question, because I was told there was going to be no public input, and yet I'm hearing it sounds like members who aren't on the committee, people not on the committee asking questions.
I think that's where you're wrong. The only people that have spoken is the engineers and owner of the property that have answered the questions. There hasn't been any other.
He's talking about Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
We did have
Kevin had a couple of items. Yes, he did.
But yet I'm still asking for public opinion right now, so they have that opportunity at this time.
Yeah, okay.
If he does have questions, I mean, if you're still on there, if you have questions other than questions about the public hearing, you can entertain that. At this time.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of people that have questions. So Bob, you messaged me. Why don't you go ahead and start with your questions, Bob?
State your name and address. Did you hear me?
Okay. So
This is Bob Derrick. Can you hear me? Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
Just state your name and your address.
Actually, guys,
name-
why don't we just invite people to come in during the public hearing timeframe when this is published?
That's right.
We'll notify each of these people are neighbors of the surrounding property. They can come in, enter comments, or they can come to the public hearing itself. Either format is fine, but I don't see the point of doing that tonight. I mean, you've reviewed the yeah, you've now seen you've seen the preliminary plans, you know what the property's going to be about. we'll conduct the public hearing at the next meeting.
All we were here for tonight is for them to present for us what they did. We accept it and that this is over. Go on to.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have let Kevin Berger make a comment because he is a neighbor. He will be notified. He can make his comments then.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any action for the commission tonight or just for us to listen to?
No action.
Okay.
Well, he would have done it under citizen input anyway, so.
So moving on then to public hearing 22003 P
Yeah,
475.
at 475 South Shore.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Eric Burns, 644 South Shore Drive.
We're going to open the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
procedural point. We haven't opened the hearing yet.
Great.
Motion when we open the public hearing on the 22nd, 03 P.
For a second. Good job, though. Thanks.
Yeah, you betcha. So Eric Burns, I'm here tonight with my son Alex Burns and our neighbor Brant Oosterbaan. I think we have the drawing that'll be coming up here soon. We also have the hard copy that my son Vanna White can walk around with. Certainly. The location is dead south on the lake. If anyone remembers Jack Campbell and my father Jack Burns and Brant's father Brant Oosterbaan back in the 80s and 90s had a transaction where Jack Campbell sold a piece of property to both his father and to my father. So the Burns Oosterbaans own, as we speak tonight, a piece of property together, and it's this dog leg. It's probably easier to see there, but you're seeing a crosshatch. And so there's a really odd shape. It's sort of triangular with another funny triangle inside of it. That is right adjacent to our house. We live in the house that used to be Jack Campbell's mother's house. That's 644. And so if you walk out on the grass there, this used to be a garden area. And by agreement back in the 80s and 90s, the Burnses, even though we owned it all of it jointly with Oosterbaans, the Burnses got to use what we call the garden parcel, that big funny shaped chunk that's crosshatch, that blueberry.
Arrowhead. whatever.
Yeah, if I could point it. I'm sorry.
You can point to it on my computer if you want.
I'm not very good at that. You can point it, but if you don't mind, I'll just do this. So Burns 644 here. Here's the property that we're talking about. I'm going around the edges of it. You can see the crosshatch. That is one big, about a half-acre piece of property that is owned by Burns and Oosterbaan together. And back 30 years ago, it was agreed that Burns would be using this garden parcel and have a piece out to the lake with a pier. And then Oosterbaan would use this slightly bigger on the lakefront piece that they would have a pier on, and that's how it's been going for 35 years. And so our fathers have passed, Jack Campbell's passed. I'm not getting younger. I'm not sure about Brant. We got generations to try and take care of things, and our hope is that you will approve this replat. And all that it's going to do is it's going to take this piece right here, 4 corners, and essentially pull it out and give it all to Oosterbaan, 100% ownership. That would leave, and they've always used it all these years. Everybody's happy with all the usage. That would leave this other piece, which is the funny shaped garden parcel, and just this sliver out to the lake, 100% the Burnses. So if you go out there after this gets replatted, hopefully, it's not gonna be any different activities, not gonna be any different piers, there's not gonna be any different anything. What this will do is it will create a 12,000 foot piece of property here that's potentially buildable that we're, thinking about looking at. This is not buildable, can't be buildable.
Right.
And so we're asking for you to do that replat for us this evening. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Just a clarifying question, Eric. So the agreement was with your father and Jack Campbell, all three?
Yes,
Okay, I just want to make sure I captured that. Thank you.
originally.
So now there's actually three parcels that we're looking at.
Two.
Two.
As we- Yeah, the only, right now, it's just one. It's just this whole thing is right now is just one. And all we're doing is saying, let's make that one into two. And then take this piece out, be just for Oosterbond, owned 100% by Oosterbond. And that would mean the rest of it here, the remainder would be 100%.
Eric, how are the taxes split up on that now?
That's why we want.
That's part of the problem.
That's part
They
of the
sent in the
problem.
tax bill and we split.
Split.
Yeah,
You split it, but whose name is it actually?
Both,
It's still in both.
it's mailed to
names.
us, because I think we're
It's
first.
mailed to you, so
Because it's
you
first.
just gotta get a check from him when you
Yeah,
pay it, right?
that's-
Okay.
So this is the same drawing.
Right, yeah, I get it.
That's a great question.
Wasn't sure about that little.
Yeah, right here.
You're talking about lakefront.
Yes, it is.
You have to be very friendly to handle that arrangement.
Makes this right.
They just make sense to what they want. Just want to split it. Clean it up. To get the next generation. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, 30 and.
Yeah, it really is. It's just if you're gonna build on it.
Yeah, it cleans it up. That's what it does.
Eventually people build.
Couldn't be.
This is an unbuildable lot. This would be the only buildable, it's still, we can.
It's not like you got neighborhoods.
We had fun.
You'll see that on.
Right.
So it's confusing when
I
it's
do.
finished with the
I can clarify that, yeah.
That's a good point. And you see, because those are just buildable lines, you see in those two strips,
Yeah.
those lines going out here and buildable area, so it's obviously not buildable.
Right.
Yeah, and that,
Right, that's what we're making.
it's not a good drawing, it has a much better drawing, because that is confusing. Yeah.
Very, this is what we deal with the BZA. They're just cleaning this up. Right. Right, so we're good, we're good. Right?
I like seeing.
Yeah, we like it. Eric, you're
Well, that's
good.
what Chuck has been
We're good.
helping, been saying, it's like, this is probably just
Right, no.
get rid of the uncertainty.
No, as we were,
That's not to address the.
okay. As we were talking earlier, this takes care of a mess that's been muddled up over there for quite a while. We will have at the end one buildable lot, enough square footage for one buildable lot for the future. The one that's going to be unbuildable was unbuildable to begin with. And so there's nothing that can ever be built there. They just use that as their access. Would I like to have gotten rid of that and never had it? Yes, but this is the best that we're going to be able to do. We can't make them not do it because it's already a non-conforming lot.
I would like to.
Right.
That way with the nine.
And we talked about that early on, but that's just not how it's going to happen with the
You're one step there.
families that,
Yeah.
the families that own it. Sometime in the future, probably somebody else is going to buy that adjoined to their property, which would then complete the whole thing. Right now, we're in an intermediate step, cleaning up what's been a mess and making one buildable lot. And access to the lake will be cut down as far as number of people that can get in there.
And the buildable portion goes to Brent?
No.
Oh, no?
No, it goes to Burke.
Okay, great.
Any members? Anything else to say about this, concerns? So we go to the public this time. Do they have any concerns at all? Questions, compliments? Kevin, you're afraid to speak?
I've used my time on the other ones.
Everybody online? Has anything to say about this? Any questions, concerns?
Doesn't look like it.
No one online.
All right, so, we'll close the hearing at this time.
Motion closed.
Good. All in favor? Close.
Aye.
All right. So do I have any other discussion at this time? Or you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 475 South Shore replat as presented by Burns.
Second.
Got first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They'd like to have signatures on this before they leave so they can get it recorded.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna ask that question. Do we record it
No,
or
they
do you
do.
guys do it on your end?
It's
Okay.
their responsibility.
I'm still naive to this process.
We don't want to spend any
Right
money.
here you go. I thought I heard you say something.
No, I did not.
We got-
No, I actually, Marty Easterbon's birthday was on.
Is there two copies
Oh,
there?
yes. I thought I
Are
heard.
you related to Marty?
Yeah, his cousin.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I saw him last night. in the
He's my
street.
mentor. I call him Marty, the mentor.
You need one?
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He calls me coach.
Oh, the radio was on your.
He's on redevelopment now.
Thank you.
He was on the planning commission.
I got that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you got it.
Yeah.
You gotta get him back on. He's a,
We'd love to have him on
he's
it.
a great thinker and a good guy to have. We call him.
You encouraging him, I'll keep twisting his arm.
I'm thinking here, this is signed too. Sure looks like it's calling for a signature. I don't want to slow down your meeting here. You'll have to just pick it up later,
No, that's okay. You're good.
because it looks like it's accepted by the town board of trustees also.
But does it have to go before the council?
No, that's it.
So replat generally doesn't go before council. Why does it say board of trustees?
It's how Plymouth threw it out.
Yes.
No, that would be Marlene and the township.
I don't know why it's even gone up that way unless
So
it
you're
is
not burying it on.
Fine.
That should be.
If it says board of trustees on the.
Well, if something needs a signature, we'll look at that. That's how they do it. Thank
I
you.
never actually said that. Sometimes we don't even have
The sign.
a place to sign for the.
In my 14 years on council, we never signed a replat. Right. If we had to do something with an alley or a road. Okay. All right, they're good.
Moving on. We've got citizen input, so any concerns, any citizen has other than what we already talked about? Welcome you at this point. Try online. Try on the planning commission or anything.
That's a good one, Barry.
Nothing coming up in the chat. Nope.
Kevin, you have anything for citizen input?
Just my standard question about the fence.
Yeah, I know. Something we haven't talked about.
After I talked, there was no citizen.
All right, it's time for the building commissioner's report.
I think you've all been informed what I've been busy with, so.
Yeah.
I think right now that's basically it. You're going to bring up the technical review committee, right?
Right.
Okay.
Be next, and you can actually, if nobody has any questions for you other than any major concerns they have throughout town, whatever. All right, we'll just move on then. Chuck, you can continue with the
Technical.
review committee.
Well, we met on the 475 or 415, I'm sorry. Lakeshore, discussed that, moved it to here. I think that's the major thing that we've done. For any of you who don't know, and for new guys, Technical Review Committee is made up of myself, Bob Porter, Jenny Monroe, Barry McManaway, and Chester Good. Okay, and what we do is look at the initial presentation, get questions answered, have them maybe change, adopt something before it comes then back here. So it's just kind of a,
Save time.
yeah, it's a time saver. Even though it's an intermediate step, it saves a lot of time when it gets to here. So just so you guys are aware of that. And if,
You'll be more aware of it at times, because there's times that we can be out of here till 9 or 9:30. And that's sometimes without the reviews, so.
and if you guys ever want to sit in on a technical review committee, you're welcome to sit there, listen, see what goes on. I would, encourage you if you can.
Is there a set date for those meetings?
We have those set twice a month, on the second Thursday and the fourth Thursday. If we don't have any cases or anything, we don't have it, but we would post that if we have something.
They get advertised on the bulletin out here. We do notifications to Karen. And then I'll start disseminating. I just got nominated to do minutes on those. So that's what you have in front of you that I distributed earlier. I'll start sending those out electronically too. We keep them on a shared drive. So if you need access to that drive for any reason, let me know.
Could I ask you to get a copy of that, please?
Sure. I've got extra.
I think that's all that we've got for the, let you know what the technical review committee does. We use Bob Porter for streets and underground utilities, anything like that. Chester and Barry from Plan Commission, knowing what they need to see, what you guys all need to see. Jenny, of course, from the town, and myself. So just kind of it's a big helping step.
Sometimes it's easier, actually, not to interrupt you, but like with Bob Porter being the town, street, everything else, you're talking drainage, everything else that sometimes when it comes forward here, it might hold that up because we don't have the answers that we could get from town managers, whatever.
Right.
And so it does expedite a lot of things. You can actually get your questions answered at the time that you're.
Jenny is a big help being here at the meetings, but in the past, town manager hasn't always attended. So.
So we made her secretary
So she can't miss.
And I figure we should learn how to use our technology. So I'll start using this more so you have a view of what people are talking about and don't have to pass around the papers and stuff like that.
Appreciate it.
We'll get better at it.
We're trying. Anybody have questions for Jeff as part of the technical committee, things, whatever?
Makes sense.
All right, moving on. We've got Ty Adley. I believe.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know or haven't had a chance to meet him yet, Ty Adley is our plan director for Marshall County. Worked with him for the last 12 years or so. Extremely bright young man. Of course, I say young man, he's not that young anymore. Well, I asked him to come down just to do a presentation overall. Would like to get everybody brought up to speed as much as possible. Understand what we're supposed to do. Ty went to school for this beyond, what we know here. So I'm always either calling him or sending him an email asking, this, that, or whatever, just to make sure that we have things in a legal prospect the way that it needs to be. So ask him to come and just kind of go through what he's got, his presentation put together. Do you need to put your computer in here?
I got it all on flash drive.
Here's a question and answer. So I mean, my opinion.
Is it okay if we?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. You're welcome.
I don't know if I have an extra drive. You know what, though? We can take this one out. Because the online people don't really need to see us.
This one?
You got an external mouse.
Yeah.
Might
Yeah.
wanna change it out for a
Sure.
clicker. That would work. You're gonna go to other. ABA. Me too. It's gonna be back to basics.
Learning a lot here.
I know how to use PowerPoint fairly well.
I gotta give you a hard time.
I assume you want it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll take it a minute to transition. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Be on the street.
You're fine. I don't get you.
You're fine.
Ty, do you want that podium over there? We can bring it out.
It's okay. We got a sweet chair.
Okay, as long as you can speak into the microphone.
I'll do my best to project. So my name's Ty Adley. I'm the director for the Marshall County Planning Commission, as well as the, let's see how this goes.
You want me to do it?
That's cool. Yeah, if you want to hit the next slide, that'd be great. Technology, no, you can never rely on it. So I'm the director for the Marshall County Planning Commission, but I'm also the Northern Region Rep for APA Indiana, which stands for the American Planning Association Indiana chapter. So we've got a national planning organization and we have a local chapter here in the state. And so as a part of that, I was elected to represent the northern third of the entire state, trying to assist in education matters, whether it's for board members or it's for planning directors, planning commissioners, those sorts of things. So I put on several presentations throughout the state, as well as at our local conferences that we do in the fall and the spring. And so Shep was nice enough to ask me to come in and kind of give a basics presentation. He kind of outlined some of the questions that he wanted to go over. So I've been very grateful for that. And so I kind of broke it down into two aspects, the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. So with everybody here being the Planning Commission, we'll go through that. And if you guys have a desire, I can kind of give you a brief outline on what the BZA looks like, but not go into too much depth because it may not matter a whole lot to you, but having a little understanding of how that process works would be good. But we'll have a more in-depth BZA presentation on Thursday if you have an interest. So, click next. Thank you. So, a quick idea is into the role of growth and development for the community itself. You've got primary duties, your responsibilities as the Planning Commission, and then you got some ancillary duties as well that you may not have thought of before. The primary duty of the Planning Commission is to develop and recommend to the legislative body, which would be the City Council, a plan for how Culver is going to be moving forward in the future. This is what's known as a comprehensive plan. Culver's done an excellent job in continuing to update that plan. So as long as you keep that moving forward, you're going to always have a plan moving forward into the future. So it's incredibly important to stay up to date on that because it's going to be about a 20-year horizon in what you're trying to plan for. Strategic plans are going to usually be about 3 to 5 years, something you can see, something you can tangibly begin to put your hands on, start planning for. But that comprehensive plan starts to really reach out there and where you're wanting your community to move forward in. So, but many commissions though will kind of find this difficult to adhere to. And you're also going to run up against some confrontation when you're going through this process. You're not going to be everybody's best friend. That's just not how it works. Because people are usually going to think of what's going to be in their best interest, let alone what the best interest is going to be as a community as a whole. In terms of your responsibility under the law, the planning commission is responsible for preparing the comprehensive plan, preparing the zoning ordinance as well as the subdivision control ordinance, making recommendations to the legislative body in order to amend those two texts. Then you're going to continue to review the proposals to subdivide land, which is what you did here tonight in a couple of the different cases. You're going to approve development plans like the PUD. And then you're also going to assign addresses as well. And that's going to be more of a staff level aspect to that. The kind of the ancillary duties, things that you won't necessarily think of that you're going to be responsible for, are going to include usually about 6 items. You're going to be looking at annexations, helping the city council out with those aspects, because you are essentially the development arm of the community. You're representing different aspects that they may not be representing. They're representing the larger whole. You're going to be that step closer to that development aspect. You're going to be working with utility extensions, just depending on how your utilities and everything are worked up. Right-of-way adjustments. Right-of-ways are a bit complicated and a pain in the butt if you really want to get down to it. But looking forward into the future, you're looking at thoroughfare plans, those sorts of things, so that you're planning out into the future and where you may or may not need to acquire additional right-of-way. So if Jefferson were to expand and go to 3 lanes with a center turn lane in the middle, you're trying to plan for that into the future so that right-of-way costs today are cheaper than right-of-way costs tomorrow. I haven't seen a whole lot of things dip in price, especially in today's market. A couple of the other things that you're going to get into is neighborhood revitalization. So if you're wanting to focus on an area within the community that you want to see continue to get better, you're looking to do smaller plans, small area plans. And finally, you're going to be looking at environmental protection, because as you are part of that development arm, you have a very conscious matter in what's going to be happening down the road and what's going to be affecting downstream. With one of the huge environmental aspects in the community, you've got Lake Mags. Very, very well protected, very highly interested in what occurs in relationship to that development. So as you're kind of looking to change, you mind if you jump back a couple slides?
Mm-hmm.
One more. Cool. Thank you. As the ordinance begins to change, you're going to look into a couple different aspects. You're going to be looking at revisions, and then when you have no cases on the agenda, there's a couple aspects to that might be of interest as you go forward. Revisions, over the course of time, your zoning ordinance, which is the orange book, is going to be kind of your big crutch that you're leaning on in amending. Your subdivision control ordinance often doesn't get as much amendments over the course of time, but you still will see subdivisions, little splits, those sorts of things. So trying to stay up to date on that rather than referencing documents that may be 20, 30, 40 years old with the last revision a decade ago. Things change, and so your ordinances need to kind of stay up to date on those. So the spirit is to follow the guidance of the comprehensive plan. It's kind of where all your plans are kind of setting in place. And it's an overarching plan for the community with the input that's backing by the citizens. Without citizen input into that comprehensive plan, you're not going to get as much support from the community when you begin to make decisions based on that plan. So it's of your interest as well as the council's interest to have that community support behind that. There will come times when the comprehensive plan is needing to be updated. So as you kind of get closer to that 20-year horizon, you're going to want to do a full new plan. And then about every 10 years or so, you may want to look at doing an amendment. If you are just going through all your action items that are necessary within that plan, it may be a good time to update and say, hey, in 10 years, we want to take these extra steps in the meantime before you go through a full update. There will come a couple of times, maybe once a year or so, you may not have any cases on the agenda. And so that's going to be often a good time for reflection on what ordinances are needing to be amended. if you've got a significant caseload at the BZA for one item that just keeps coming up and up and up, it's time to probably take a look at that section of the ordinance and establish, do we need to make the amendment, or what's going to help us best? Because if you're completely inundated with caseload for the BZA, they're going to get sick of seeing cases at some point in time. As a small community, sometimes it's hard to get people onto that board. So it's going to be of great interest.
He's one of them on it.
Two of us are on the BZA, so.
And they have had a
You can
lot
feel
of
for it.
cases.
You can feel for us, right?
Definitely.
I do.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir here.
We've had meetings till 10:30 at night in BZA.
I know,
It gets exhausting, that's for sure. So as you kind of get into the comprehensive plan, kind of what the backbone is, just kind of a brief history and why that comprehensive plan kind of comes about is to kind of understand its purpose today. We're needing to look about what comprehensive plans looked like in the past. From kind of the early settlements, when communities were developed in the United States, they had to be laid out according to plans. That's why you got that grid structure in relationship to your streets. That's why your streets are as wide as they are. They're developed at a specific point in times. So these towns and villages usually were located in uplands where they're were safe from floodwaters. Buildings were arranged in an efficient way for commerce. And then farms were in the kind of the outer lying areas. You were mixing a whole lot of uses at that point in time. You wanted the stench away from where a lot of your businesses were going to be located. It's just simple aspects into how you begin to plan things out. Now you kind of get to see into how there's more mixed use kind of coming into play a little bit here and there as you see more people living above and the businesses below. Those sorts of things are kind of coming back. And so all development is kind of planned out to some degree, some better than others. But there are differences to who does the planning and what those goals of the plans are. So everything that you got presented tonight is coming from one person's perspective. Now, is that the same perspective as a comp plan that you guys have laid out saying this is what we want to see? Or is it completely counterintuitive to what they're proposing? So it's all about the perspective in relationship to what those cases are going to look like, as well as what those plans are going to be trying to get at the end of the day. So developers are going to convert flat farmland into building sites because of the cost of grading relationship to site preparation is going to be really low. Likewise, to avoid the cost of building new roads, which is extremely expensive. If you've ever looked at what it costs to repave just one lane mile, imagine trying to build an entire roadway itself. It's rather pricey. And so they're going to subdivide the frontages along the existing roads. At that point, they're not having to put in that additional infrastructure in relationship to that. And that's going to have an impact on what your community is going to look like in the future, as well as it's going to hinder the development behind that space as well. So for the same reason, some landowners are going to subdivide the outlying parcels into house lots with gravel roads and driveways instead of providing for street access for that additional aspect. You can think about it in relationship to if you've got a driveway, what's it cost to rock? What's it cost to put in asphalt? What's it cost to put in concrete? Now double that size and start talking about miles instead of 100 feet or so. So the cost and benefit versus the public interest is something that you want to take into consideration. There's a cost benefit to the development side of things, and there's going to be a cost benefit to what the public's going to be receiving at the end of the day. What's their impact going to be? And you've got to be able to make that determination and what's going to be the best interest from point A to point B. So sometimes choices with lower costs and increase the benefit for one person or institution is going to increase the cost for others. The factory on the river that pollutes the water and kills a fish is going to cost the fisherman his livelihood. So you can think back to when Lake Max was much more heavily fished and access around the lake was less, a little more difficult, less roads. The houses on the farmland are going to remove the land from the production and create problems for a neighboring farmer who is not going to have residents complaining about the dust, the smell, the typical agricultural understanding of what he's been doing for quite some time. So building string along existing road frontage, and that's going to continue to increase traffic in that location. An accident says new driveways are going to create points of conflict. You can think about it in relationship to any suburbanized area where you've got multiple restaurants or convenience stores, all of them having their individual access points are going to create opportunities for conflict at that point along that road, rather than if you were to take those driveways out and have shared access points. There's a safety cost benefit to those.
The time.
Sure.
Just kind of interject there while he's turning pages. We are looking at our comprehensive plan right now. It was implemented in August of 2014. So it's kind of reaching that point where we need to look at some changes, some updates. So we've been looking at that. When Ty talks about mixed uses and things, some of you are old enough to remember the hog farm that we had right at 10 and 17. I don't know, you were here, Wayne, that wasn't yours, was it?
No.
But the smell was terrible. And as the town started growing and we had more and more people coming to the lake, it was quite a problem. And it took some time to convince them that they needed to change that. So we have had those issues with, and because we didn't have a plan at that time. That was it. Sorry, Ty.
Tigers there too.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And the Tigers, remember that?
Yeah, he had tigers at the, I think he fed the deceased hogs to them.
So one of the reasons that communities engage in planning is the process to ensure that the needs of the whole of the community are going to be addressed. And so the community planning is based on the concept of the public interest. You are that arm of the public interest. You've got the city council, they're elected to represent their individual bodies. You're that one step closer to the development realm where you're set on as members of departments, or you're members of the community who have been tasked to sit on this board and be a representation from your different backgrounds to provide that extra insight into this development world. And so as you kind of continue to move forward, you got this huge responsibility as planning commissioners to assist in the growth and the development of the community, which you've also beginning to look at the public interest as well as trying to balance that with the personal interest in property. Because the people that are coming before you have a personal interest in their own ground. So you're trying to begin to balance those two aspects. So in terms of benefits and requirements, in short, planning offers many of the benefits to the community and its residents by guiding the investment, protecting property values, and making communities healthier. Albeit simple, but there are only 3 elements that are required under law for a comprehensive plan. A statement of objectives for the future development of the jurisdiction, a statement of policy for the land use development of the jurisdiction, and a statement of policy for the development of public roadways, public places, public lands, structures, and utilities. The law allows for a number of optional elements. Those may be parks and recreation, flood control, natural resources, those sorts of things. And so you can make it the most simple thing as possible, but you're going to end up sacrificing what additional detail and what additional information that's going to help guide you as well as your successors down the road in making those decisions. Because just like all of you have had your first meeting here, your predecessors had their first meeting, and your successors in the future are going to have their first meeting, and they're not going to know all of you, and they're not going to know the past you who you're kind of taking the place of. So making as much detail as possible, but still allowing for an essence of vagueness so that you can begin to continue to interpret it and not making it so strict. In terms of public involvement, the comprehensive plan is a guiding document to which all documents, the zoning ordinance, the subdivision control ordinance, and other area plans or specialty plans should be modeled. You're getting a community consensus is essential to the success in the planning. A plan that does not have the support of the majority of those who will be affected by it is going to end up being doomed for failure. Plan commissioners are key players in arriving at that consensus. Not only do you share their observations and views about the community from your specific backgrounds, you're going to be able to ensure that there's a full range of those views. There's no board like yours, because not everybody else has your individual experiences to that. So frequently, planning participants include representatives of steering committees, focus groups for stakeholders, and the general public. Meetings can be face-to-face like they've been historically, or in recent times, you're getting into more 24/7 access to Zoom conferences. Like many of the individuals that are on tonight, but not even here, they're still able to participate and get an understanding of what's going on. So you're continuing to open that up. So it's something you can continue to encourage during your comp plan, but also think about those that may not have that access as well. So you've got to try to continue to think outside the box on different ways you can begin to incorporate others into the planning process.
When we do our comp plan, we've already engaged with MACOG to help with that. They're the transportation and planning team for our region. MACOG is particularly good at comprehensive planning, and they're really good at public engagement. So they'll help us put together surveys, or they'll help us do a public engagement event. And then you have the Marshall County, the Culver Crossroads team that I think I've told you guys about in past meetings, where there's 4 major subcommittees of a lot of stakeholders in Culver. They will also get involved in some of that. So we'll be feeding you some data. And if you start thinking about what are the things you want to know from your public in terms of planning, we'll help put together some of that public engagement for you. And I'll probably at some point inundate your inboxes with data we already have that we did when we were doing Culver stellar planning, and when we also did regional stellar planning. There's a ton of data on Culver. We tend to have the highest turnout of people who respond to surveys and who come to public engagement events. So even when we did the regional stellar plan, Culver had the highest participation in public involvement. So it's good information for you guys to have as you're trying to make decisions on our comp plan. And I'll try to feed you more of that. Because I think in the past, we've not been great about spreading that information among all of our commissioners and council members.
Absolutely. In terms of conduct, just kind of a quick refresher when you're going through the meeting process itself. It's common sense on how a meeting should be conducted, but it's often beneficial to have a brief refresher kind of on our responsibilities. Common courtesy is going to be a key to a successful meeting. Sometimes they're going to get heated. So as much as you can keep a level head, keep the respect as high as you can, it's going to be hugely beneficial to you as well as the public in general as well. The commission should display and demand good manners, and here are some of the basic principles. All comments and questions addressed should be to the chair. Everyone addressed with the title of respect, whether it's Miss, Mr., Mrs., etc. Polite, courteous, business-like tones and manner. There shouldn't be any yelling, smirking, rolling the eyes, giggling, cross conversations or anything along those lines. And try to avoid distractions at any cost, whether it's members, staff, the audience, just trying to be respectful and total. I myself still need to continue to work on that. So there shouldn't be any threats, of course, and there's really no reason for applause. Usually you're going to get that during a contentious meeting, whether it's somebody that's during the public hearing process is speaking for or against when you're getting an agreed group of individuals. There's going to be several ways to kind of keep the public hearings on track. Public hearings should be formally opened and closed, and no public comment should be taken at any time other than during that public hearing section of that meeting. The chair should have the authority to limit the length of time for the people that want to speak and cut it off when there's irrelevant or repetitive comments as well. It's going to keep you on track. It's going to make it so your meetings aren't longer than you desire. So in terms of the motions and minutes, kind of post-public hearing, after the hearing is concluded, the planning commission is going to arrive to a decision or recommendation. The issues often are complicated and decision-making is going to be difficult at times. And so these decisions will be a lot easier if the community has a well-crafted comp plan. We're going to keep coming back to that aspect. The better your comp plan is, the more ground you're going to have to stand on when you're making your decisions based on the comp plan itself. While it sounds easy to use the plan and kind of follow that as guidance in practice, the planning commission is going to sometimes fail to do so. It happens, and so that's why taking these refreshers, those sorts of things, kind of recentering yourself as a board is going to be hugely beneficial, because sometimes we just lose track of where we're supposed to be. There's going to be a variety of inputs that the planning commission will feel, including peer pressure, public pressure, developer and business pressure, political pressure, and desire for compromise and outside influences. So if somebody's trying to talk to you about a case outside of this meeting itself in the public hearing, it's not good. At that point, it's basically trying to bend your ear in a direction that they desire. As much as they want to talk about it, getting it in front of the public hearing is going to be in the best interest, because otherwise it's going to look like somebody's trying to sway you one direction or another. In terms of your official action, when you begin to move forward with a lot of those cases, Indiana law provides that the Plan Commission actions are official only if taken by the majority of all members. So how many members do we have in total on the board?
9.
9. So the majority is going to be 5. So whether 5 of you show up or all 9 of you show up, 5 individuals have to vote the same direction. So if 5 of you show up and 4 vote for, 1 votes against, it doesn't pass. So it's always a portion of the board as a whole, not the board in attendance. So that's something you want to always remember. It's important that the planning commission attending meetings that they vote on the matters requiring official action. Planning commissioners should consider all sides of each issue and make a decision. In some controversial cases, you're going to choose to abstain from voting as an easy way out. This practice is unfair to everybody. And the commission's rules and procedures should prohibit voting absent or abstaining for any reasons other than legitimate conflicts of interest. In smaller communities, you're going to sometimes run into conflicts of interest because you know somebody, you're a part of that development aspect or whatever it may be. Those are going to come up from time to time. When you're in a larger community, it's going to be a little less often. And so it's important to kind of get those out in front, because you could wind up in court because you were a part of that conversation, you were a part of that vote and swayed a vote one direction or another. So you could be getting yourself into legal hot water. So it's something to pay attention to. So in terms of your minutes, or just sorry, try not to miss anything. In terms of your minutes, they should be completed and adopted as soon as possible after the meeting. It's going to keep things as easy as possible. As we begin to go through the building permitting process, knowing exactly what was done, who approved what, and what conditions were put in that motion is highly desired to know when we're going through the rest of the development side of things. So trying to get those turned around as quickly as possible is going to be key. And the minutes should contain a summary of the request, a record of the public testimony, and a summary of the commission or board's discussion, and a record of the motions and the final outcomes, including that vote. That way, should you end up in court, you've got a lot of backing to what had occurred and that it's been in the best interest. So in terms of the breakdowns that commonly occur, that's part of things. Your motion should reference applicable criteria. There's going to be a list of things that you're taking into consideration when you're making that vote. And it's important to make reference to that when you're making the vote itself. The president and the chair should take a strong leadership role in bringing the group to that vote. And upon termination of the public hearing, any discussion between the BZA or the planning commission members, the president or chair should call for a motion on the matter. Even if you don't feel strongly, someone should make that motion simply for the purpose of bringing that issue to a vote. If the motion is unsuccessful, any member may then propose a different motion, again, for the purpose of bringing the issue to a vote. If that motion is unsuccessful, a request that is recommended to the legislative body, the planning commission should have a final motion to forward the petition to the legislative body with no recommendation. In terms of BZA, BZA matters, the planning commission makes the final decision. If all motions have failed to carry, the matter should be continued to the next meeting, either through the motion or through provisions contained in your rules of procedure. I always encourage kind of briefing over those maybe once a year. That way everybody stays on track or going over with new members. And that's pretty much everything that I have in terms of the planning commission, just kind of giving you a overarching breakdown of how that plays out, the importance of the comprehensive plan, the importance of your position here in the board itself, and how that begins to fit into the greater aspect of development within the community. Do you have any questions about the planning commission aspects?
I would ask as far as, I mean, like, we didn't always have technical review committee.
Okay.
And we formed that for the aspect of convenient information coming before the planning commission at time.
Right.
Do you have any special process to go through as far as technical review committee, as far as being over our items or being over what the planning commission? I'm just putting this out there. I'm
Yeah.
trying to suggest one way or the other.
Okay.
But I mean, is there a certain process that would either alleviate problems or create? I mean,
To kind
I'm
of
not sure.
make it as simple as possible, the technical review committee is kind of set up as representatives of this board as well as departments that are involved in the development process itself. So if you've got cases in general, like subdivisions or PUDs or ordinance changes, you're going to want those to go through that board. So just like from city council to you as a planning commission, the TRC is that to the planning commission itself. It is a more narrowed down group of individuals that are that one step closer to the development aspect. And so you're going to get more into the details, if you will. And so they would be making the recommendation up to the planning commission, who's going to take a slightly more vague view of the ordinance or the project that's going to come before them. And then the city council is going to be briefed on what has happened before them. That's why there's an importance to having that hierarchy in relationship to data.
So it just adds a step to the process.
Right. It adds a step, but it adds a step for the benefit review. That way, you as a planning commission can review everything if you so desired. But not everybody's going to have that more detailed background. So you're kind of refining that down, getting a lot of those major aspects out of the way, but bringing it to the planning commission. One of your members that's not on the TRC may have a benefit of knowing certain things that you may not. And so it's kind of where the more general comes into play. You're going to have more people looking at it, and so they may see something that may be an issue in their eyes that you may have missed.
So as far as coming before the planning commission, you actually have new eyes.
Exactly. You stand and write a paper for 3 days and it ends up being 10 pages and it all looks the same at the end.
Yeah.
The guy next to you's got fresh eyes on it, and so he's going to see things just a little bit differently.
Do you guys all have copies of the comprehensive plan? Okay. 1, 2, 3, you guys need them. Everybody else have them. Who doesn't have comprehensive plan. Okay, I will get those sometime before next month, let you know that they're here. It is online, that you can read it, but sometimes it's nice just to have paper there. You can read at your pace or when you want to. So we'll get that. That's kind of, as Ty said, that's our guiding direction, guiding light for, I don't like to say it's our Bible, but it is what we base everything else on.
I use mine the same. I mean, I don't know if it helps anybody at all. My Bible, I always wrote notes
Right,
right in it. I do comprehensive plan the same way.
right.
And it comes back to a reference. I see where I checked it or wrote note. It just enlightens what whatever strikes me more hope than the other.
It's pretty easy to read. 153 pages is what we've got. But I'm going back, reviewing it. There's things in there that we can work on better and do better. So get you all copies and
There's actually a few things in there that I have to read 2 or 3 times and I still don't catch the. But basic comprehensive plan doesn't always involve what we're involved in either as far as projections. So I don't have to know everything, but it's informative.
Last time we did it in 2014. In 2015, we put together a 5-year action plan based on the comp plan. That 5-year action plan became our Stellar plan. That's how we led us to Stellar. We came up with what are the top priorities in the comp plan. Now let's go find funding. And that's how we did Stellar.
so you can see how important that is to have and also to use.
Mark, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or anything like that? Yes, sir.
Can you just share your presentation so I can attach it?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I got a write-up too if you would like that as well.
Some, even better.
Save you some writing.
So Ty, you're going to give the same presentation to the BZA on Thursday, correct?
I'll give the presentation to the BZA on
Okay.
Thursday and it'll be more BZA based.
Okay, so I have some questions that are related to BZA that I'll bring up at that time.
Okay.
I do as well.
That's right.
Anything in general that you think the planning commission might think of benefit?
Really?
Okay.
No.
Sounds good.
Sometimes they're related.
Yeah.
Ty, thank you very much.
Absolutely. It's really opportunity.
Is their meeting the same?
Is this one you too? That's it.
Yes,
Thursday, 6:30.
6:30. We have one case. Probably will take 45 minutes or to an hour.
Don't even say it. All right. moving
So
on.
we'll get to Ty somewhere around
Yeah.
7 o'clock. Hopefully.
So commission members, any concerns, input, anything that you have questions with, seen things? Procedure. Start from Chester, Andrew, Bobby. No, I have none. All right, that's a quick one. Anything left on Sunday is to adjourn?
You'll make a motion to adjourn?
Any opposed?
It's always.
Yeah, I look at the minutes, yeah. Right.
Yes.
It was a race.
Mr. Bean,